Okay, welcome to the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. I am your host, Dino Cespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
I'm feeling pretty good, buddy. Just getting ready, getting into the work week, but ready to reflect on a great weekend of football as well.
Really good weekend of football. So we'll be back tomorrow, talk about what happened in Europe. Quite a bit happened. But for now, we're going to hit NWSL Matchweek 2. A lot of interesting storylines. I think it's funny. As we go, our predictions, some of them look great. And others are just like some shocking stuff that I think we'll get into. And then some other teams that I think have, maybe sputtered a little bit out of the gate. But a lot to cover. Where do you want to get started?
Well, they didn't play in my current location of Seattle, Washington, but Seattle Reign FC played a pretty interesting match in Cary, North Carolina. Final score, Seattle Reign FC 2, North Carolina Courage 1. I wouldn't mind getting started there if you're all right with it.
I'm ready. Let's go. Seattle, 1 foot in the playoffs already. So, I mean, perfectly fine place to get started. Let's do it.
If the season ended today, I know everybody loves that game. 2 matches into the season. I just left this match with a couple questions. Well, before I get to those questions, I would dare to say, as a guy who watched all 26 Seattle Reign matches last season, many of them from the press box at Lumen Field in Seattle, I don't think the attack ever looked that threatening in maybe any match. I mean, they had like the 3-goal game against San Diego, I think, last year. Maybe it was against LA or Angel City, pardon me. But I had just never last year remember kind of looking at the attack and seeing how fluid it looked, seeing players kind of being able to better anticipate where their teammates would be. You saw it on the Jess Fishlock goal. Just the amount of passing that was happening and just kind of the general movement, the like almost amoeba, like everybody's kind of moving in these different directions, but they're all coordinated. And I left the match wondering, is that what the offense is really going to look like this season? Because if it does, then maybe our show prediction, or maybe some might say your prediction of the Reign making the playoffs, that might come true.
There's room on the Reign wagon. I don't see why we can't put another couple ITC brethren on the old bandwagon here. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, I think it has to be somewhat of a Laura Harvey effect. And I think shout out to the guy, Zach Lowe, who talked about this from a basketball standpoint. But good teams, good franchises, good organizations, even when they're rebuilding, it's a quick turnaround. It's sort of like this is sort of like a season from hell a little bit. Things got turned upside down. But I just sort of feel like, and Laura Harvey, and you talked about this a ton last year, like she was out looking for attacking talent. Like this clearly was a top priority for her. And that is not just personnel, but it's also personnel plus scheme. And then I think there's even a third component, which is like personnel plus scheme plus scouting of maybe some of these young players. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but I think the impact of the young players this season in the NWSL has been immense. You've got a couple on your squad. I think that have definitely shown out this year. I want to talk specifically about Maddie Dahlin because that's somebody that caught me a little bit by surprise. I was like, okay, I'm not sure if I don't know. What do I need to know? How much do you know? Like, well, can we fill in some gaps? And then I would love to kind of dive a little deeper on this Reign side.
Well, I'll tell you, the great Susie Rance, when she was on this program, Susie Rance of Sounder at Heart. You should go to that website. If you, the Ride of the Valkyries is like the section, pardon me, is the section for Reign FC coverage. But Sounder at Heart also covers the Seattle Sounders, as you might expect. But yeah, Susie told me on the show, watch out for Maddie Dahlin. She has great size. And I think Susie referenced her speed. I didn't know she was this fast. I mean, she's flying up and down the pitch. Showed it in the opener as well. Definitely kind of made me raise an eyebrow when she was in the starting 11 in the season opener as well. And I was like, okay, Laura Harvey very clearly trusts this rookie right off the bat. And when I talked to her in that post match after the Gotham draw, she mentioned that Darlene had a great camp, had a great preseason, and then referenced when she had hit a pass into the middle when perhaps she should have taken a shot in that Gotham match. I think Laura Harvey's exact quote was, "I told her after, you're going to have to shoot that one, mate, because nobody else can run with you that fast." It was something it was very close to that. But, I think she's got to be like 5'9" or 5'10". She looks like a full grown adult out there already.
Yeah. And I think the speed, well, actually, you sound a little bit parched, buddy. Maybe we should,
Let's go. What am I doing? I got a frosty here.
A little bit. We'll slow out the gate here.
You know what?
Cheers to Laura Harvey.
Cheers to Laura Harvey. And cheers to Sadak. Thanks for tapping in with us, buddy. Always good to see you. Yeah, I just think, she looks dangerous right off the top. And yeah, she's just one of the many young players. When you reference the young players who showed out for Reign FC in this match against the North Carolina Courage, I have a feeling where you might be going with our next topic.
Yeah, that killer Jordan Bug that we talked about. I think like on the telecast they were talking about her defense, her passing, you talked about her speed on the show, that kind of catching you off guard. You must have been what was your reaction to the goal? I mean, that was an absolute stunner from from still a young player that I don't think, I wasn't expecting. I'm not sure if you were expecting. I'm not sure if anyone was expecting something to that degree.
No, I didn't know she had that in her game. I mean, we've talked about it, and we've had some of our pals who watch some more of the youth system talk to us about it. Like, she's obviously an A+ blue chip center back prospect. Like, that goes without saying. I think people talk about her already in the scope of she will get national team attention as she progresses in her career, but that's because of her really advanced passing, her advanced calmness that she has on the ball, her ability to kind of reset. I had no idea. And neither did our pals Mike Watts or Leanne Sanderson on the broadcast, because they're just kind of like, they were like talking like mid-story. Like they're like mid-story as the ball dribbles out to Bug and she rips the shot. And then they gave it the appropriate, Watts goes crazy. Leanne immediately is like, that's one of the best goals I've seen in a long time. Like, it's an absolute laser beam. It was a stand up off the couch moment for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, I talked earlier about that injection of young talent. Darlene Adames on this team that we talked about, Jordan Bug. You look at the 34 players who have scored a goal this season in the NWSL. 14 of the 34, 22 years of age or younger. That's an insane number. That's more than a third of the goals this season, including Gia Corley, who has 2 plus an assist to lead the NWSL. She came over from Hoffenheim, Bayern Munich prior to that. Maggie Graham, midfielder from Duke as well, with 2 goals. But, these names, Emery Adames, Alina Gomez, Jordan Bug, Michelle Cooper, Kennedy Fuller, Riley Jackson, Jamise Joseph, Carly Lima, McKenna Morris, Olivia Moultrie, Alyssa Thompson, Raylan Turner. That's a pretty good collection of 22 and under young talent that's already scored a goal in this young NWSL season. Is this like a youth movement that we're seeing here, or kind of like what do we think is at play here?
Yeah, you got to think. Obviously we're 2 matches in, but 14 out of 34, that's a pretty significant percentage even in the early season. So, I do think you have to wonder, as the season goes on, as the physicality of this league starts to take its toll. I don't want to be a wet blanket here, but it's early. We got to see how young players hold up. We see it across every professional sport in every league in the world. This kind of the training, the schedule, the pressure, it all ends up taking a toll on young players. But this certainly looks like a great youth movement 1 year after an all-time NWSL draft, too, when you think about Sentinor, Bethune, Hutton, and all the great players in that draft as well. So, health of the league-wise, looking pretty good from a youth standpoint.
Absolutely. Yep. John, welcome to the party.
John,
Just a couple minutes before we start talking some Orlando Pride, so definitely happy to have you on board with us. Philip, you already know. Hell, let's go. Yep. Glad Philip was able to join as well. And it's not an entire youth movement. You look at that Seattle midfield: Jess Fishlock, Angera, James Turner, Ji So Yun. Combined age, 102 years old for those three.
There we go.
Yeah, so it's not all it's not all the youngins, but great mix of experience and young energy from Laura Harvey. And I just think they're playing great. Defensive identities there. 12 shots against the Courage, away at the Courage. I don't think that's something that we're used to seeing from that Reign side last year. 5 shots on target, despite just 43% possession. So I thought they were really solid. Claudia Dickey, really good game from her as well. I mean, they definitely tested her, and she held up. Big win, big road win for Seattle. Not something that we're used to saying on the show, but I don't know. You must be pumped. And my playoff prediction, I don't know, feeling real warm and toasty over here about that.
You should, buddy. I think it's going to be very interesting to monitor. Should we do just a couple quick seconds on North Carolina? And maybe this is not the greatest sports podcast or sports radio talking point. They're going to be fine. I'm not going to worry about North Carolina 2 matches into the season. I think they're going to be totally fine. We got to give them some time to gel. We got to give Nahas and the staff a little time to figure out how to move. Like you lose a great piece like Ghetto Lynn, and then you inject an amazing piece like Jaden Shaw. You also lose Narumi. So there are things moving here that are different from that stout defense and that possessive style we saw last year. I'm not selling 1 share of my North Carolina Courage stock. I think they're going to be just fine.
I don't know that I agree with you, buddy. I think I gotta offload a couple. I gotta offload a couple shares.
Well, ship them this way.
The Cataline, she moves on. Obviously, Narumi Mira, a huge loss as well. I didn't like how it looked like Carolina lost confidence in that one after giving up the goals. They started out strong, tons of possession, in control of the match. And then they they fall behind at home, and I feel like they sort of, I don't know, they kind of unraveled a little bit. They looked a lot less potent offensively, definitely a lot less in control of the match. I'm monitoring the situation in North Carolina. It's kind of like tracking the hurricanes over here on the East Coast. I'm plotting it. I'm kind of seeing where things are going, but I'm going to say it now. I would not be shocked if this Courage side was deep into the playoff battle, once we get to the end of the season, and might find themselves on the outside looking in based on what we've seen so far.
That's bold. All right. We live by take integrity here. We keep track of each other's predictions. We'll be watching this one. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, you get into those dog days of summer, and then you have to chase North Carolina around while they're playing that possessive style. I wonder if that we'll get some positive regression to the mean in terms of their playing style and how they can win matches. But, you're a big, and, correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm mischaracterizing, your general steez, but I do respect that you're kind of big on how do you look in the face of adversity? Do you look like you're dejected after you give up a goal? Or do you look like you're lost after you score a goal and then everybody's head's not in it? I feel like you're really intuitive on picking up those things. So it makes me put my antenna up a little bit.
Yeah, we'll keep tracking it. All right, let's head over to Central Florida. John, you definitely cracked the frosty if you've got it over there. Gotham 0, Orlando 2. I found it interesting. Gotham wins the XG battle 1.1 to 1.0. Further evidence that XG is, it's just in some ways just a figment of our imagination. But Orlando looking unbeatable as they like to do. What are you going to take away from this one?
Eventually one of these shows we'll stop talking about all of our preseason predictions, but I will say I predicted the speed. All right, that's fair. Okay, I won't commit to it either. That's fine. Until people overwhelmingly maybe tell us all right, we're good. We got them all memorized. But I picked the Spirit to win the Shield, and the Current to win the NWSL championship. And I just walked away from this game and I said, Orlando is firmly in the mix. They're challenging for both trophies. There's no doubt about that. But I did just leave this game, again, kind of almost backtracking from what I said only 2 matches in. I left this game thinking, I can't believe I didn't fucking pick them to win a trophy. They're probably gonna win a trophy. I should have picked them to win at least one of the 2.
Yeah, I walked away the same because I picked them to win the championship, but not the Shield. Right. I had the Spirit to win the Shield. And when I'm watching this match, I'm just like, who's going to even score on this team? Like, yeah. And when I was watching it, I'm like, Gotham is a team that maybe it's not all full of vets, but they do have veteran. They have a ton of experience, whether it's like in some of the top leagues around the world, and they still have players on that side that have had success in this league for that squad. It's wild to watch a team try to turn it up, and be like, let's turn it up. Let's turn it up. All right, we're down. Okay, own goal. Okay, that's okay. We'll turn it up.
Yep.
All right, we unfortunate. There's a penalty. Okay, now it's 2. We're not out of it. We're home. We're still an experienced team. And to watch them really try and really push and really try. I mean, like they outshot Orlando 15-6 in this one. They had 8 shots in the second half, 3 on target in the second half. They really were pushing as hard as they could. And it's sort of like the big sister, kind of like with the hand on the head. It's like, you can't reach where I'm at. Like, it just felt like Gotham was a pass or 2 short on every single possession. It's just like, what do you do? What do you do against this team? Even when Rafaela comes off at halftime, Corey Dyke comes in at the outside back position, they still look like a monster defensively. So it's like, you could make a halftime sub, take off a player of Rafaela's stature, and still just be locked down, like no relief for the opposing offense. I mean, I had that same exact feeling. I'm like, why did I just not pick this team to win? Not only win both, but just maybe go undefeated again. Who knows?
I mean, it's super on the board. I mean, your point about the defense is right. They just force you into making difficult decisions. They press you when you don't want to be pressed. They take away your first and second passing options. They might be also taking away your third passing options. They make you make decisions faster than you'd like to make decisions. Like, they are just so organized as a defense. And then so many of those players, once they rip the ball off you, they already know where their teammates are going to be in that context of like, okay, now how do we get the ball forward? But then they also are smart enough to say, I'm just going to turn it around and we're not going forward after we take the ball off you. It's time for a reset. They're just as well coached and as smart of a team of players that you're going to find in the league and the world, as has been discussed multiple times on this podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think speaking of predictions, I spoke to Anna Morehouse in the preseason. I asked her about her goals, and one of her goals was to set or reset the clean sheet record of, what was it last year? 12 out of 26. She's the 6th of the way there, 2 for 2 this season. Orlando yet to give up a goal. She's got 24 more cracks at it. I think she's definitely getting that record. I think this defense is, barring injury, if they have those 5, 6, 7 players, to cycle through. We haven't even seen, Oyane Hernandez yet, as part of the defense. But if they stay healthy, she's getting that record. And I think they'll be hovering in that mid-teens in terms of goals given up this season by the end of it. So I think that's definitely super live. And I mean, another quick note here, this was an ITC victory lap. This telecast. Leanne Sanderson, Mike Watts, shout out to great friends of the pod. Corey Dyke comes in at halftime. ITC Hall of Fame, we already know. Barbara Banda taking on another ITC Hall of Famer on the other side, Emily Sonnet, and all of it involves your boys Orlando Pride. So, I mean, the show, I feel like, was woven all throughout that telecast. Had a great time watching it. Orlando gets the big win.
There you go. I think the only way it could have been more of an ITC game is if it was Mike Watts and Leanne calling the Reign play the Pride. So, I mean, obviously our fingerprints are right over there. And I think that's got to be one of those fixtures. If we can get Mike Watts on the broadcast for either one of those, that's when I'm going to try to cash in that ticket of when I shamelessly asked him to reference our podcast when a pass goes into the channel. I mean, I'm definitely going to try to call that one in for one of those.
I've been listening for it. She's definitely playing
Me
hard to get with
too.
us.
Surely he's already forgotten it. I mean, he did tell me I have to remind him before a match if he's going to drop it in. So I'll have to throw up the bat signal when I think the time is right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and shout out to John chiming in here. Hernandez is in Orlando. Hope she gets better, or hope she has her paperwork sorted. Prayer hands emoji. John, great friend of the show from Loud and Proud, Orlando. Definitely go check them out. Go subscribe
Oh
for all
yeah,
you Orlando Pride heads out there. And the last quick note, Allie Watt. I'm having trouble recognizing this player this season. She's just doing a lot of cool stuff that I haven't seen before. She's just like taking on
yeah,
everybody for these headers, tenacious defense, covering a lot more. I mean, I guess I guess she always struck me as a fast player, but not necessarily a
yeah.
player that covered like all of this ground. Like, 'cause she was just, live everywhere on the field. So I think she's been really great. And Seb Hines mentioned Watt specifically a couple times last year in the post-game pressers, about, you could tell that was a player that he's a big time fan of, even when she wasn't quite having those performances last year. I think this year she's absolutely balling. Gives Orlando a really cool dimension to, again, keep teams off balance.
Yeah, totally. I mean, she gives like a lot of energy. She'll sprint forward, but then she'll sprint back on defense, and it just feels like I'm not. I remember you mentioning, like, obviously Hines is a fan of her game. I would venture to guess that Hines also probably really likes. She seems to be a very popular figure amongst her teammates as well. So it seems like she has a little bit of those, and some of them are sports cliches, but it seems like she has a lot of that support from her teammates as kind of like an unspoken leader, or maybe just a flat out spoken leader of the squad as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the vibes are just so positive out there. It's a real heartbreaker that I'm leaving Orlando. It's definitely been one of the best things about Orlando the couple of years here. But switching gears to Gotham, Jeff Kassoff on Blue Sky today posted about Jace, the Brazilian, I don't know, not quite a superstar, but all-star, world-class player, I'll say. Jace's move from Man United to Gotham. I think that's really going to give them some added firepower that's needed. But more importantly, we get Jace out of the wrong side of the tracks in Manchester. I tweeted a couple weeks ago, free Jace, and I think my dreams come true. I mean, she ends up in Gotham. We're worse places to land, but I'm definitely happy for that player.
Yeah, should be interesting to see how she fits in the midfield. I totally agree. There's clearly something going on at Manchester United to where she wasn't getting the playing time. I mean, obviously we look at a lot of these professional managers are like, I don't know, they clearly know more about football than us. Unless we're totally missing something, seeing her on the field, I know she's good enough to play for United. She has to be. She has to be good enough to get like regular minutes. So to see her come over to Gotham, I'll be really interested to see how she fits in over there.
Yep, definitely looking forward to that. She'll be able to, I don't know, link up with Gabby Portillo and kind of hang out. Maybe she's got some buddies there already. Hopefully they're on good terms. I don't just assuming there. Let's shift gears though. This is the match that I think we were both probably the most excited about this weekend, or at least right up there. Washington Spirit 0, Kansas City Current 2. Surprising scoreline. A lot to talk about in this one. Where should we start?
I didn't expect Kansas City to take it to the Spirit the way they did. I mean, it was competitive. So, like, Spirit had 56% of the ball throughout the game. I think 2-0, it's obviously not a blowout, but let me just fact check myself here live on the show. Yeah, so I thought so. So they go into halftime scoreless. The Labonta PK make doesn't come until the 56th minute. But this felt like one of those matches where I would qualify it as a great win, not just because you beat a really good opponent, but you did the thing where you go ahead 1-0 and then near the death, you extend it to 2-0 to slam the door shut. To me, just narratively, almost like mentally, there is an extra feeling of satisfaction a club gets from doing that over a good opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because it's sort of like you always talk about that second goal. Like, which way is that going to swing it? And Kansas City, it was wild because Washington, there's a couple of stats here that really kind of blew me away. The juxtaposition. Okay. Passes in the final third. The Washington Spirit lead that category in this one, 68-45. So roughly 3-2, right? Passes in the final third. But then when you look at touches in the opposition box, it completely flips. 26-13 Kansas City Current. A 2-1 margin there. So that means that Washington's kind of knocking it around, in the advanced midfield area, unable to like really break through. They were at a shot disadvantage, 16-11, the Spirit was, and a shot on target disadvantage, 6-3, even though they won possession, as you mentioned. But I thought that was really telling. Like they've got the ball in good areas, but much like Gotham against Orlando, not really able to kind of push all the way forward. Santos was dangerous. Obviously, no Trinity Rodman. Still waiting on Craig Bethune. No Hal Hirschfeld in this one. So, no Ule Sar, still waiting on her return. So definitely, understaffed, short-staffed in this one against KC. But shout out to KC. They're on the road. They kind of sat back a little bit. You mentioned Vlatko Andonovski, in the coaching matchup against Iona and what that would look like. I mean, Vlatko definitely got the better of him in this one. They sat back, waited for their chances. And when they got him, took full advantage. And then again, still had, got more shots off on the road against a really good team, a really good defense.
Kansas City Current, executed pretty much every bit of shithousery that they could. They were trying to waste time. They were clipping clipping the opponent, elbows up, to use hockey terminology, and in like some of those instances, Michelle Cooper. And, we don't accuse players of faking injuries on this podcast, but also we've all watched football. We understand sometimes a player sits down, is like, ooh, got a cramp at a weird time. Just so happened to be when our opponent started to kind of push the ball upfield after a turnover. Weird how that happens. But I think you go into that match thinking we are pretty much on level terms of them talent wise, and there's no reason for Kansas City Current to believe they're not equal talent wise to Washington Spirit. But what if we throw in this extra stuff? What if we get in their heads? What if we kind of try to disrupt their timing, disrupt the very precise routes that Geraldes wants those players to run while they're trying to, whether they're in build-up play or in the final third, kind of force them to knock the ball around, like you said. And I mean, you have been spot on about Claire Hutton from early last season. She had a couple moments in this match where she's a star player, man.
Yeah,
like she is so smart and so clever on the ball that she just adds an element. And if you are Lacey Santos, I thought she played well for Washington Spirit. But if you don't have like a super strong midfield, like obviously they're missing Bethune and missing Hirschfeld in that midfield, Claire Hutton is going to get some things done, and she definitely did that in this weekend's match.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think Claire Hutton's still ascending at a crazy rapid pace, and like so crisp her game is. I think it's a player that you like trust, like wildly enough, like this youth movement. This is a player in her second year. So tremendous exciting time for the NWSL for sure. I'm glad you mentioned the shithousery, because I lump that into the intangibles category. Like it's like what's the non-football, non-tactical, non-schematic stuff that I think really matters. And then I also lump that in with what I like to call the toughness stats. And when you look at the toughness stats in this one, fouls committed 14-9 in favor of the Current. So they were getting busy there. Tackles won 14-7 in favor of the Current. Yellow cards, my favorite toughness stat of all. 3-0 KC Current, mixing it up. Love to see that. And then you get a great performance from that KC defense. Ellie Wheeler, Kayla Sharples, Alana Cook, Izzy Rodriguez, and cannot fail to mention Lorena, the keeper. Man. Getting it done. 3 shots up, 3 shots down. Just completely was not going to get beaten today. I think that Lorena signing is working out better than any of us have expected.
I think that's fair. I know we were excited about it going in, and Almuth Schultz played well for them last year. And so when it was announced that she was kind of, heading out of the club, we were like, oh, okay, what's the next move? And signing, Brazilian keeper Lorena, I think we knew that was a good idea, but that was a Lorena game. I probably could have mentioned that closer to the top. I mean, it was those three great saves, and obviously like the mind-blowing one where she's like falling back, hits it with her right hand, and then has the presence of mind to push it away with her left hand right next to the post. I mean, it's just phenomenal work by her. She was going out, she was catching crosses and corner kicks, just strong, just going like Randy Moss, just going up there, two hands, high point it, knocking people over on her way up and coming down. I mean, like I know we use this term, but I had in my notes, I think it was after like her second or third great save, I just said it's a Lorena game, and if you have one of those at Washington Spirit and you create kind of like this 6-point swing against one of the teams you're going to challenge for the Shield, it's absolutely massive.
It's so massive. I mean, this is one of the matches where if this match is match week 23 or 24, like it looms. If you're Kansas City, you're like, oh, we still got to go to that one. That was going to be the toughest one, I think, on the horizon. And I said that Lorraine a bit in a little bit of a weird way. Not to say that we had low expectations or medium. I had high expectations, and she's even exceeding that from here. Right. I think she's going to keep them in games and earn them points that they dropped last year. Like, when it really got tough. And we know there are issues at goalkeeper last year. I think those seem to just be way, way, way in the rearview mirror. So we'll definitely keep tracking these two teams. I don't think anything changed too much in terms of like my power ranking top three. I think those three teams, Orlando, KC, Washington, are still up in that mix. And the last thing that we talked about in the preview, the paper, rock, scissors nature of these matchups. I continue to think, and you were on it, I think you predicted this in the final, KC is a bad matchup for the Spirit. And then I do think that Orlando has a tougher time with the Spirit than they do with the Current. So I think there's a lot of kind of machinations, and we'll be interested to see who draws whom when we get to the playoffs here.
Yeah, totally agree. Little live producing here on the show, and I'm always terrible about this, and I realize that that I am typically the one who does this. I think we're 30 minutes in. What do you say we speed round these next few matches?
I love it. Let's do it. Okay. I talked about some surprises at the top. The San Diego Wave.
Look at
three goals at home. They take all 3 points versus Utah Royals. 3-2. Big time win. They won the XG battle. A lot to talk about here. I think the one thing that we have to hit, Gia Corley. What do we do about this?
Yeah.
There's some Delphine Cascarino, Kenza Dali, French connection vibes. Jonas Edeval is coming over from Arsenal. There's a lot of European, infusion here to kind of like raise the excitement level around this San Diego side and kind of like, maybe scrub out some bad history from last season. What do you see happening in San Diego?
Cascarino is just playing like a superstar, and that's obviously no surprise to anybody who's seen her play the last several years. She looked absolutely unbelievable. You're dead on that. Kenza Dali and Gia Corley looked great with her. Maria Sanchez was the beneficiary of that as well. That's quite an injection of talent. I'm gonna wait to see, how the team gets on with Edeval as the season progresses. But sure. I mean, hard to argue with that result against Utah. But on the flip side, Utah, I like the scrappiness from them. You never want to fall down 2-0, obviously. But the fact that they were able to fight back in it, I think on the did my opinion change meter, I think I'm still holding firm with Utah. I'm still bullish on Utah, and my opinion on the Wave is starting to move a little bit because the Wave, and you pointed out last week, they just have an awful lot of good players.
They do, man. I mean, we talked about McCaskill. Check out the scoring. Sanchez from Gia Corley, where that play was insane. Just right. the skating up the end line, it was unbelievable. It defied physics for sure. Then Adriana Adriana Leon scores. Assist from Delphine Cascarino. Love to see that. Gia Corley scores the third one. And Kenza Dali was super dangerous, got really close on a couple and was the primary, I think, corner taker. And then on the Utah side, I totally agree with you. Mina Tanaka scores, assist from Ali Sentnor. That's exciting. The Zornosa free kick, crazy. I think these are two playoff teams. I think I think I'm ready to say this Wave side definitely feels like one of the 8 best teams in this league. So yeah, I might have to reshuffle. I don't know. We'll do like a week 4, week 5, reshuffling. I take integrity. That's for a different show. Whatever.
Fair enough. Okay.
It's all a learning podcast. So we watch, we learn, and we'll make some adjustments.
That's true. Nothing wrong with taking in new information and changing your opinions based on that new information. It's a healthy habit to have.
Love it. Appreciate the cosign. Okay. Bay FC 2, Racing Louisville 0. A little bit of a disappointing outing from Louisville. The XG battle was close, 1.2 for Bay, 1.0 for Racing. And the stats were, I think, pretty close too. Louisville managed more shots. Bay, 1 more shot on target. Slight edge of possession, 55-45. And then we got another, oh my God. I mean, if Jordan Bugg, I'm going to have, I think I'll live my whole life not really being able to garner a staunch opinion on which goal was better on this day, Jordan Bugg or Carly Lima for Bay FC. Those were two, I mean, I don't want to say all-timers, but maybe all-seasoners.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, the fact that Lima starts her run, I know she doesn't pick up the ball until, a few yards outside of the 18, but she started that sprint at her defensive 6-yard box and then just takes the ball all the way up the field. Breathtaking goal from her. She's 21 years old. To your point earlier, you mentioned her amongst all those young players. Raised in Morgan Hill, California, which is about a 30-minute drive from PayPal Park. So she's one of their own, and I love to see that, like in this league, kind of translating over from European football. So, I was the purchaser of or the buyer. I don't know if purchaser is a word, but I purchased plenty of Bay FC stock ahead of the season. I predicted them to finish 3rd in the table, and what do you know? If the season ended today, that prediction would be spot on. And as we know, how the table looks after the second match week of the season is almost always how it looks at the end of the season. I mean, that goes without saying. So, yeah, I'm going to separate my shoulder, patting myself on the back.
Yeah, that cement is just taking shape right here.
Right.
I love it. I felt watching that Bay FC side. I mean, I think they're so exciting. Taylor Huff too, I think, has been really good as a first year player. Kundanaji, your MVP pick. How about that passing, her distribution in the final third?
Let's go.
She clearly is like, I'm going to add this to my game, and I'm going to work it out on the field. I'm just going to keep trying to do this. Quick shout to Philip here. Any thoughts on the Rodman to Europe talk? I think that's happening. I think that's happening. It might be a year or two before, but that's in the cards. Lindsay to the new Denver club. I think less so. I see that. I don't know unless she's from Denver and I'm missing it.
She is. She's from Colorado.
Okay, so then that could be something. But I don't know, man. She's at Lyon. They're playing. They're heading to the Champions League final or semifinals pretty much year in, year out. That would be a tough situation to leave as well. But who knows? I know our personal lives take us to and fro. That's something that happens as we get older for sure. But we keep it moving. Go ahead.
Real quick, I think you're totally right. Full cosign. Rodman to Europe will happen eventually. I think it would be a little strange if she didn't explore what football looks like in those other countries, kind of look at some different infrastructure. Obviously, Michelle Kang, Yona Heraldez, they're running a top-notch program in Washington, D.C., but it would be a little strange for Rodman, in her early 20s, because she was asked about this in a recent interview, and she said, "Yeah, of course. I don't want to misquote her. She said something to the effect of, she will eventually, go overseas," which I think it makes total sense for her as much of a complete footballer as she already is. She'd probably want to see what that looks like. She would look good for your Las Blancas. Let me just throw that out there. I think that would be an interesting piece. You play Caicedo on the left, you play Rodman on the right. Let's play some fucking football. I don't know. It's just something. Yeah, sure. If she wants to live in London, is very nice. Perhaps she would want to play for your Gunners.
I mean, I don't know why we couldn't make that work. It'd be exciting. Great nightlife, great happenings there. All right, let's skip ahead here. Where are we at? Okay, Bay FC, they're making the playoffs. Racing Louisville, I don't know, keep an eye on them. Chicago 1, Houston -2. This was a fun one. Like I don't know, the dash continued to court my attention.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Jamise Joseph earlier. Yep. I mean, she ripped the ball right off of Paige Nielsen. Bad moment for Nielsen. But you got to love that Nielsen was able to kind of get the equalizer like a couple moments later.
Came right back.
I mean, I think there's nothing that should really change our opinions on these teams. I think Houston is going to, obviously they're not finishing dead last in the table for the second year in a row. I think that's off the board. I think they're going to be in that maybe challenge for the playoffs, or maybe by like week 22, they're not so much challenging for the playoffs anymore, but they're kind of feeling good and feeling like they're moving in the right direction. And I mean, your prediction on Chicago, unless something big changes here and something with Mallory Swanson's status changes, we might be looking at a team who could potentially take Houston's place at the bottom of the table from last year.
Yeah, certainly feels like where things are trending. Season end today, Houston, 6th place, firmly in the playoff. They must be feeling good. And Evelina Dulian, who we mentioned too on the show, most definitely an assist in the ITC record book. This day, she's just a really good player, really good, exciting young player. Definitely in that 22 and under age band. She's yet to score, but she's going to create a lot of positive offense. Wouldn't be surprised if she gets on the score sheet in the next few weeks here, and I think the assists will come as well. I don't know. Excited about Houston. We'll keep an eye on them. And then the last matchup of this match week 2, Portland 1, Angel City 1. Portland gets a big win, and I think they continue to. I'm not a big win. Portland gets a home draw, and they continue to look like a team that has talent, missing some pieces, but it's going to be a tough out, I think, week in, week out.
One of those draws that feels a little bit like a win, even though it's at home. Portland goes down within the first 10 minutes. They're able to fight back and get the equalizer about a half hour into the match. They're going to be scrappy. I continue to wonder, and eventually somebody will tell me to shut up about this point. I mean, Sophie Wilson is a 2-time NWSL MVP. You lose her from your squad. It's hard to know where all the goals are going to come from. I know I've said that I said it in the preview. I said it after match week 1. It's just how can you replace one of the, at worst, 7 best number 9s in the world? And maybe, I might even be being real conservative, but saying 7, I think some people would consider her, and not even just a number 9, but one of the best forwards in the world. So I still am keeping a cautious eye on those Portland Thorns. I don't know how this one's going to go with that, with losing Sophie Wilson.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think the trying to patch it together, Dana Castellanos, Raylan Turner, pretty much balling this one, 5 shots, 3 on target, gets the goal. Hina Sugita as well, super dangerous, super smart, really good game. But to your point, not a lot of places to go. After you make those moves and create that space and create those lanes, you need somebody to kind of dump it off to. I think Sam Coffey in that mix as well had a really good game. But again, just not a lot of options. The star of this one for sure for me was Angelia Anderson. Played really, really well. Huge saves. What did she have? Yeah. She saved 8 of Portland's 9 shots on target, including one at the death that would have cost them a point. So that was definitely my MVP in this one. Shout out to Angelia Anderson. All right, man. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think that's about it. I think you're right. They lose the game if Anderson doesn't play that way in goal. Yep. Outstanding performance from her. And I did like, even though, I talk about Portland's lack of kind of goal scoring options at this point, the game did feel pretty open at the end. So I liked seeing that, is that there was kind of some up and down play, and neither team was playing for the draw at the end. And I know we were joking about this with the 4 1-1 draws last week. I'll say it again. 1-1 draw in this match, probably a fair result.
Yeah. I agree with you there. Definitely wide open. 30 shots total amongst the two teams. So they were definitely getting busy. Okay, quick look ahead. 8 Champions League clubs still live. 4 available spots in the semis. Those get decided this week. Hammered. Where's my Sharpie? Somebody get me my Sharpie. We'll be live tomorrow in the evening, Eastern time. Time TBD, roughly 11 p.m.-ish Eastern, to preview this week's UEFA Women's Champions League quarterfinal second leg action. Lyon hosts Bayern, Arsenal hosts Real Madrid, Barcelona welcome Wolfsburg, and Chelsea are going to try to overcome a 2-goal deficit when they host Manchester City. And those 8 teams fighting for those 4 spots in the semis, continued coverage of the Champions League football in Europe, continued coverage of the NWSL, continued coverage of all these international competitions, and where the U.S. Women's National Team stacks up in all of that. You already know where to find us. Your boys are out here. Anything else you want to hit before we got here?
I mean, obviously,
I already asked you that.
No, that's totally fair. I would be remiss, and I realize this is an NWSL episode. Very excited for the Champions League. Heads up to you. I got a bunch of meetings and stuff the next couple days. I am going to be living in the no spoilers zone. I'll have to watch the Champions League games well after work. But I would be remiss if I did not mention the mighty SK Braun notching a 3-0 victory over Rosenborg in match week 1 of the top Syrian. Braun Battalion is starting to grow a little bit on Blue Sky. So like a lot of our pals from the old website where we used to interact with folks, now moving over to Blue Sky. So we're starting to get that going for all of our American pals. SK Braun, magical run in the UEFA Women's Champions League last year out of beautiful Bergen, Norway, which I found out. I saw somebody tweeting this. I don't know how scientific it was, but I saw them blue skying it, that it rains about 200 days a year in Bergen. And I was just like, no wonder I love this place so much. I mean, I live in Seattle. No wonder I became an instant fan, instant supporter of Braun. So we'll be keeping our eye out, looking out for all the questionable streaming options to watch those matches until somebody smartens up and buys the rights to Top Syrian over here in the U.S.
Yeah, let's go. Make that purchase happen. You already know where to find, your pregame show. Your boys are here. We're ready. Locked and loaded. Let's go. Grant's already got the 200 days a year rain gear in his closet. He's stacked.
That's right.
All right, man. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate everybody who popped in to the chat. John, Phillips, Doc, appreciate you guys. If you enjoyed the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, make sure you kick in with us each and every single week, sometimes twice a week. Like if you liked, subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Appreciate everybody that does that. We want to hear from you. We love hearing from you. Links to all of our socials, the show notes of this episode, all of our socials except one, as mentioned. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Grant Engel, for NWSL, Champions League, International Cups, doesn't matter. My guy's ready. He's here for all of it. I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. Yeah, thanks everybody for kicking it with us tonight, and we will see you all next time.